Today we're going to talk about 5 ways to make wine from home while you're social distancing. Normally I'd consider winemaking a really social activity, but right now we're kind of caught up in the midst of the coronavirus. So most of you, like me, are kind of spending a little bit more time at home and staying away from people. But one way to kind of keep your sanity when you're home like this is to play around with making some wines, kind of try some things out, maybe get into it if you've never done it before, or if you've done it for years, try some new things. So I'm going to tell you a few ways that you can make wine at home without really even having to come in contact with any human beings. The first way is going to be how a lot of people get started out there, and it's going to be just from frozen concentrate. So this is just your normal Welch's 100% grape juice. This just happens to be white grape juice, but they make red grape juice, they make apple juice. There's all kinds of juice options out there. And believe it or not, you can make wine from these. And this is a really good beginner wine. Doesn't cost a lot of money. You can really screw it up and you're hardly out anything. And honestly, it's pretty hard to screw it up that bad. Things you're going to want to look at when you're buying grape juice like this, though, is just make sure that it doesn't have certain preservatives. So you're going to want to watch for things like potassium sorbate, which you're rarely going to see in here, but that's really going to make it difficult for that yeast to ferment. If I'm looking at this Welch's label here, I'm seeing ascorbic acid, that's vitamin C. I'm seeing filtered water, citric acid, and potassium metabisulfite, which is just your standard sulfites, which are pretty yeast friendly. The yeast is going to have no issues ripping right through those sulfites. And of course the first ingredient, which is white grape juice. In the video description, I'll put a link to a video where I show you exactly how to make wine from a frozen concentrate like this. Next on our list is going to be making wine from a kit. So these are concentrate kits. They usually come in anywhere from 5 liters of concentrate to up to 15 liters to make 5 to 6 gallons of wine. You can get red wines, you can get white wines, and you can get all kinds of grapes, just about any grape you would ever want. And there's varying levels of kits. So at the very basic, cheapest level of kit, you're going to get a lot less concentrate. You might get something more like 5 liters. You're not going to get any fancy add-ons. You're not going to get grape skins. You're probably not going to get any oak products, so oak chips, oak cubes, oak dust. It's just going to be a basic kit. All the way to the upper end where you're going to get grape skins, oak, you're going to get a lot more concentrate. So you're going to get a little bit, kind of a more full-bodied wine out of those. Now a wine kit can make a pretty good wine. They're usually meant to be drank in a really short amount of time. So usually 30 to 60 days, those wines can be ready. Whereas when you make a wine from red grapes, you're often looking at 12 months, even longer before that wine's ready. And anything below that, it's just a little bit too harsh to drink. So that comes with its trade-offs. When a wine's ready to drink in 60 days, it's not really gonna be the kind of wine that can hold up in 2 years or 1 year. And what I mean by that, I don't mean the wine's gonna go bad, but often what happens is they just end up a little bit thinner. They're just not as full of a wine as you would get when you get that seed and skin contact when making wine from grapes. But it's a fun little project. It's also a really, really good way to learn because you can get a kit for, $40 to make 30 bottles of wine. Now again, in the video description, I'll put a link to some options to make wine kits that I've done here and some little tricks that you can do to turn kind of a wimpy wine kit into a relatively full-bodied wine. Now third on our list is going to be, this is what I consider the pinnacle of making wine in the off-season when you just can't get grapes and they're just not really available to you. And that's going to be making wine from frozen grapes. And you heard it right, you can get frozen grapes shipped right to your door in a 5 or 6 gallon bucket, and thaw them out and make red wine just as if you were getting those fresh grapes in the wine harvest right off the vineyard. And you can make some really, really high quality wines this way. And this is always going to be, of all the things I'm listing, my go-to, but it's going to be a lot more expensive. So you're going to get incredibly premium wines, but you're going to pay for it. So to make something like 3 gallons of finished wine, you're going to have $150 on up into it. So you're looking at, $15 plus a bottle, but you can make a bottle that would be as good as something like a $30 or a $50 store-bought wine. So these are great things to do once you've already done a lot of winemaking and you want to step it up to that next level. So again, put a link in the description to how to make wine from frozen grapes. Just like frozen grapes, number 4 on the list is going to be making wine from frozen grape juice. And I don't mean grape juice concentrate, I mean wine juice. So you can get frozen white wine juice just like you can get frozen grapes, and you can get whatever you want. Do you want a Riesling? Do you want a Pinot Grigio? Do you want a Chardonnay? Really any white wine grape, and you can get them from different wine growing regions of the world. And a lot like the red wine, you're going to thaw that out and you can ferment it similar to what you would do for a kit, but a little bit different than what you would do for that red wine, because you don't have to deal with the punching down of the skins. You don't have to really, you do still have to monitor. It's not like you're doing nothing here, but it's going to be a little bit of a different process than making red wines. Now I will say, I do prefer to make white wines from juice because you'd rather have that grape grower crush and destem and press those grapes right off the vineyard instead of give you the grapes so that you can crush and destem them and press them. You can basically get that wine into liquid form right away. You can take away some of that vineyard variation because it's going to be bulk stored. You can let the wine cold settle out, and you're just getting a lot less oxygen exposure because white wines are a whole lot more delicate than red wines. They've got a lot less tannin. They're just a lot less flavor, and they're just very sensitive. I'll just say that. So it's easy to notice a really subtle off flavor in a white wine. Now, last but not least, this is again a really, really good way to make wine if you just want to get into it and you don't even know if you're going to like the hobby at all. And that's going to be making a country wine. So a country wine is going to be your stuff that's not really your grape-based wines. It's going to be you going out in your yard and picking dandelions and making dandelion wines, or picking rose hips and making those. And there are all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. One thing I used to do when I first got into winemaking is I made something called Skeeter Pea, and that's a lemon wine. It's a lot like a hard lemonade, and it is the cheapest wine I could ever imagine making because it takes about 3 lemon juice concentrates, which are only a few dollars each, and about a 10-pound bag of sugar to make 5 or 6 gallons of wine. And to tell you the truth, it's actually pretty good, and it's a pretty good crowd pleaser. You can do things like you can mix it with iced tea and make an Arnold Palmer out of it. And it's really, really kind of simple, and you've got nothing to lose when you're making a wine like this because you just got almost no money into it. You're looking at, I don't know, 25 cents a bottle or something like that. There are a lot of books out there about country wines. This book here I have, it's called 101 Recipes for Making Wild Wines at Home. Now let me tell you what, there are some crazy looking recipes in this book. Some of them look pretty gross, and of course you've got your standards. You've got your strawberries and your blackberries and any of the berry type wines that you can make wine from. This is a book that my grandfather had called Successful Winemaking at Home, and this is probably from the 1920s. And this book has some, again, pretty crazy stuff in it. Some wines that you would just think, what in the world? Who would make this? And also some kind of old standards like your elderberries and raspberries. These are just kind of cool books to flip through and see what in the heck are people making wine out of out there. And once you get an idea, maybe dig around on the internet, because you can kind of learn a little bit more than the stuff that people were doing in the 1920s, where they're just using bread yeast and really kind of maybe the pre-scientific winemaking era. Let's see, elderflower wine, rose petal wine, colt's foot wine. 1 gallon of colt's foot flowers. I don't even know what a colt's foot is, but that just goes to show you can make wine out of all kinds of weird stuff. Now make sure you poke around on my channel. I didn't go into a lot of details of exactly how to make wine, but if you click some of those more specific winemaking videos that I'm going to put in the description, it should kind of get you through the process. And if you have any questions, make sure to post them in the comments. And also swing by my website, smartwinemaking.com, where I can clarify things a little bit there. Now, if you want to see me make wine out of lemon juice, post in the comments. If I get enough comments on that, I'll make a 6-gallon batch of lemon wine. I'll show you exactly how to do it. Hope this is helpful for you, and stay safe out there. Thanks for watching.